desire. Ooh, you're driving me crazy with desire. I'm burning with desire. Yeah, you're driving me crazy with desire. Crazy with desire.
Hello everyone, John Banks here. Today we're going to be taking a look at the CZ P-01 as a defensive option. I wanted to do this review a lot sooner, but you know, life. So let's just get right into it. The CZ P-01 is an alloy-framed, compact, hammer-fired, double single-action handgun chambered in 9mm. It's a variant of the legendary CZ-75, which is the second most common service pistol in the world, second only to the 1911. But instead of being set up as a military service pistol, the CZ P-01 was designed in 1999 for police in the Czech Republic and has been produced from 2001 to present. I got this gun in March of 2018, so I've had a little over a year and a half to test it and run it through its paces. Over the course of this review, I've tested 2 sets of sights, 2 holsters, and 2 weapon-mounted lights. I have a lot to say, so let's dive right into it. The gun comes from the factory with 2 14-round magazines that feature a very nice rubber base plate. I am a huge fan of this because that makes the magazine not hit the ground as rough whenever you're doing mag changes. As well, it comes with some very nice European-style viewing windows so that you can approximate how many rounds are in your gun. It's marked with 5, 10, and 14 rounds. Unlike Glock magazines, these are super easy to take apart. The only tool you really need is a punch or something like that. You just press in on the bottom of it and then slip the base plate off, and then the rest just comes right out. The grips that come equipped with the gun are a very nice set of rubber grips with a comfortable palm swell. The actual front strap and back strap of the frame features some very nice striations here to help you get a better grip. As with all modern CZ pistols, the grip on this gun is very ergonomic, and it points quite naturally in the hand. The gun came with a set of Phillips screws, but I replaced them with some hex screws from CZ Custom. I was not a fan of the original screws because they were a bit pokey on my stomach whenever I'd carry the gun at the appendix position. As well, I wanted to replace them because they began to corrode from my sweat, and simply because I prefer the look and function of hex screws. At the bottom of the grip is a lanyard ring. The back of the grip features a very pronounced beaver tail, which definitely helps prevent hammer bite if you've got larger hands. This gun features a very well-placed frame-mounted decocker, which helps to safely lower the hammer on a chambered round, while helping to reduce the risk of an accidental discharge. This specific variant of the P-01 does not feature a manual safety, therefore it cannot be carried in Condition 1. However, there are variants of this pistol, such as the P-01 Omega and the P-01 Omega in Urban Gray, which do feature a convertible ambidextrous manual safety, allowing for them to be carried cocked and locked. Its magazine release is just a standard CZ-style magazine release, which can be converted to the right side of the gun for those of you who are left-handed shooters. I really like it because I can still hit it with my thumb without having to adjust my firing grip. The slide release of this gun is a very large paddle, which still is very unintrusive for carry. It jets back a bit further than a standard CZ-75 slide release, meaning that I can manipulate the slide of the gun without having to adjust my grip with my firing hand. It also makes it a lot easier to do the CSGO slap reload. This one's for you, Frontier Setter. Oh yeah. The gun's trigger is curved and it actually feels very nice against the pad of my finger. However, a couple people who have shot my P-01 have complained of the trigger pinching them. I personally have never had this problem, so I'm only reporting what they've said to me in regard to it. However, if you do experience this problem, the trigger can be replaced with an aftermarket trigger. The double action pull is about 10 pounds, while the single action pull is about 5 pounds. The trigger's single action reset is a bit longer than you'd expect, but I've actually never noticed it while shooting. It's perfectly fine if you ask me. Like most modern concealed carry pistols, this gun does feature a standard 1913 rail on the bottom for mounting accessories. I've had this gun fitted with a weapon-mounted light for most of the entire duration of time that I've owned it. I started out carrying this gun with a Surefire XC1 before transitioning to a second generation XC1B, and an Enforce APLC, which surprisingly works perfectly with the Alpha Concealment Centaur rig in which I carry the gun. On a side note, I highly recommend the Enforce APLC over the Surefire XC1B for a number of reasons. The performance of the XC1 is subpar, to say the least. The beam is dim and more spread out, which the APLC fulfills the same role, but much better. The XC1 started doing this really annoying thing where it just dies on me out of the blue, so I can't recommend it at all. The XC1B is certainly better than the original XC1, but both fall short in every category in comparison to the APLC, apart from battery availability. If you're looking for a quality compact weapon-mounted light, definitely go with Enforce. The gun features some very grippy rear slide serrations, which are identical to an original pre-B CC75. They make gripping the shorter slide of the gun much easier. The gun as well features some front slide serrations, which are identical to the ones on most modern CZ75s. Front slide serrations on a carry gun are incredibly beneficial for me because I really like to press check my guns. While not essential, it is a very welcomed feature. The gun comes from the factory with some very nice 3-dot sights which glow if you expose them to light. However, they are not night sights and do not feature tritium inserts. I started out just carrying this gun with the stock sights before switching to a set of TrueGlow TFXs, and now I have the gun fitted with a set of TrueGlow TFX Pros. Both of these sights are tritium fiber optic, which means they feature both tritium inserts and fiber optic rods for picking up ambient light and increasing visibility. But both of these sights are a different review for a different day. Let me know if you'd like to see a review on them. The gun features a 3.75-inch barrel. The finish on the barrel isn't awful by any means, but it certainly shows more wear than something like a Glock barrel would. Aftermarket barrels, threaded or otherwise, are available for this gun from CZ and other distributors. The P-01's finish is what CZ calls their polycoat finish. From what I've observed and tested so far, it is extremely durable. This is one of the gun's most impressive features in my opinion, as I've experienced very little wear over the year that I've carried this gun. And on top of that, I've carried it exclusively in Kydex. The only places I've seen any sort of wear on the pistol are, of course, the contact points it would make with the holster, i.e., just along the corners of the slide and frame. In the time I've owned this gun, I've put over 1,000 rounds through it, ranging from hollow point to ball ammunition, and it has fed 100%. I don't think I've had a single malfunction with it. And I also don't believe I've had any light primer strikes either. The overall reliability of this gun has been stellar. As of February 2003, the CZ P-01 is a NATO-approved sidearm. It was approved following an extensive series of tests and trials, which only it and the Glock 17 and 19 passed. Because of this, the CZ was granted a NATO Armory serial number, which is seen on the right side of the pistol. When I first got this gun, its trigger pull was a bit hefty and a little stiff too. But after all the time I've spent shooting it and dry firing it, it's smoothed up significantly. It's no match grade gun, but it can be fired very accurately due to its nice trigger. The grip of the gun is very thin for a double stack, and it would probably be great for people who have smaller hands. Not only that, but it's probably the most ergonomic grip of any metal frame gun I've ever handled apart from the full-size CZ75. Because the CZ P-01 is Glock 19 sized, it really hits that sweet spot for the size of a perfect concealed carry pistol. And like the Glock 19, it handles very similarly to its full-size counterpart, and can be efficiently used to the same effect as such. While the rough rear slide serrations can be a bit tough to adjust to, it doesn't take long. Don't let the aggressive appearance fool you, as they're quite lovely once you get to know them. Like me. The gun's recoil pulse is very smooth. Of course, it's not as smooth as a full-size steel-frame CZ75, but it is very smooth nonetheless. The gun's inverted slide rails help to reduce the overall mass of the slide, therefore making it a lot easier to handle. Because of the P-01's aluminum alloy frame, it is significantly lighter than a steel frame pistol, and while it isn't as light as a polymer frame pistol, it's certainly not a gun I would consider heavy. With a proper belt and a proper holster, this gun is still incredibly comfortable to carry. Field stripping the P-01 is fairly simple. It's just like field stripping any other CZ75, except it has one step that I'm not too fond of. So of course, you release the magazine, and check to make sure that the chamber is empty. Next, you'll pull the slide back so that the hash mark on the slide meets the hash mark on the frame. Normally you'd just be able to press on the slide release and remove it from the opposite side, but for some god-awful reason, the P-01 requires the hand strength of Johnny Bench to remove the slide release from the frame. I cannot for the life of me remove the slide release without having to use some external help to take it apart. I've found that using the rubber base plate of the magazine is the most efficient method. And of course, the rest is standard fare. If the hammer is cocked, lower it. Then proceed to remove the slide from the frame. The P-01 does not have a captive recoil spring, so be very careful when taking it apart. The recoil spring and polymer guide rod are not connected, meaning that they can be further disassembled for more thorough maintenance. When removing the barrel from the slide, simply pinch it, push it forward slightly, and lift it out. Like all other CZ75s, the P-01 uses the same lockup design as the 1911 and Browning High Power, making it a very precise pistol. CZ pistols are typically very reliable and require very little maintenance. However, because of my OCD, I do clean my guns after almost every range session. Back in January of 2018, I got my first Smith & Wesson 5906. It was perfectly reliable, but I didn't want to take any chances due to the issues I did experience with it. After already having problems with the Smith & Wesson 1006 I bought before the one I currently own, the idea of buying a used gun had temporarily left a bad taste in my mouth. I wanted something fresh and new. For the longest time, I wanted to test out a pistol from CZ. I'd always known of CZ, but until I actually owned one of their pistols, I sort of considered them a third-tier manufacturer. Boy, was I wrong. I fell in love with the curvaceous yet thin grips of the P-01 immediately. I was amazed that the gun was so thin despite the fact that it utilized a double-stack magazine. And so, I fell in love. After selling my 5906, I got my P-01. Not only did I want to test a pistol from CZ, but I wanted to test out the controversial new fad of appendix carry. In doing so, I wanted a hammer-fired gun, as I did not trust striker-fired guns for this method of carry due to its increased risk. Regardless of what any idiot with a loud mouth and a tight t-shirt might say or think, appendix carry does come with more risks than the traditional hip carry method does. Therefore, I wanted to minimize that risk as much as I possibly could while testing this method of carry. If I were to holster my gun and shoot myself accidentally while carrying at the appendix position, I could easily be hit in the genitals or femoral artery. The chances of stopping a femoral artery from causing you to bleed out are incredibly slim. People have lost legs and even died from being injured in that region of their body. So, those inherent risks can be minimized by carrying a hammer-fired gun. After drawing the gun and firing it, and decocking the hammer of course, you simply place your thumb over the hammer to prevent the gun from firing should it be snagged on a shirt tail or jacket drawstring. After carrying this way for as long as I have, I fell in love with appendix carry. It's so much easier for me to conceal a gun at the appendix position than on my hip. Not to mention, the draw is much faster and smoother. And if you get one of the sidecar style holsters that's become so popular nowadays, you get to easily and conveniently carry more rounds on board. Not only that, but you'd have a spare magazine on board for malfunction clearance. Because I've carried this way for so long, I've become confident and competent with it, and I now feel safe enough to transition to a striker-fired gun for appendix carry. With enough training, most points of danger can be avoided with relative ease. So, it's time for me to see where the once reluctant journey of appendix carry takes me. Of course, as can be expected, nothing in life is perfect. While I am very satisfied with the overall performance of this gun, I am rather disappointed with a couple of aspects of it. Those of you who follow my channel know the problems I'm referring to. Last June, being 2018, I noticed that the back of the gun's firing pin was seated a little bit deeper in the slide than usual. I thought nothing of it until a few days later when I noticed that the firing pin was protruding from the breech face by about 3 millimeters. After contacting CZ, I learned that this was due to excessive dry firing. CZ pistols which have a roll pin in the slide which pertains to the firing pin and drop safety are not meant to be dry fired without the use of a snap cap. This is due to the fact that the firing pin requires resistance during firing in order for the roll pin to maintain its structural integrity. If I hadn't noticed this problem, there would have certainly been an accidental discharge should I have gone to chamber around with authority. This is an issue CZ has known about for years but has done nothing to advise their customers of. The remedy for this is simply to not dry fire your gun excessively without the use of a snap cap. The only other problem I encountered has to do with the decocker's return spring breaking. One evening I went to decock the gun's hammer and noticed that there was a snap when I did it. I then noticed that the gun's decocker, while still functional, wobbled back and forth instead of returning to the upright position. Fixing this part was simply a matter of ordering a new spring from Cajun Gunworks and installing it. Something to keep in mind about CZ pistols, especially non-Omega CZ pistols, is that their internals are very complex. As much as I love CZ pistols, they lack in simplicity what they feature in elegance. So we have to reflect on the problems I experienced over the course of this review. How common are they, and should you worry about them as well? From the research I've done, these problems are fairly uncommon. Perhaps my pistol was just a bad batch of springs and roll pins. I've only ever talked with a small handful of individuals who've experienced the same issues, and after repairing the broken parts, they also have reportedly had no problems since. So, if you're thinking about getting a CZ P-01, I recommend buying a set of replacement springs and roll pins just to be on the safe side. What's rather concerning about this is that this pistol was my primary carry gun when these problems occurred. Luckily, I own plenty of other guns that I can carry and make use of, but if the P-01 were to be my first gun, I don't think I would recommend it based on the problems I've experienced. Is it a wonderful fighting handgun? Yes. Can you trust your life to it? Also yes. But based on the problems I've encountered, I don't think it should be anybody's first choice for a handgun. So, what do I think of the CZ P-01? I think it's an excellent option for concealed carry. I think it's a fantastic fighting handgun, and I think other companies should strive to produce a gun as carry-friendly and ergonomic. Do I recommend it as a first-time buyer's gun? No. The CZ P-01 is just internally too complex for me to sign off on it for being a beginner's gun. A new shooter is a lot more likely to do well with something like a Glock, which is incredibly simple and easy to work on, has a consistent trigger pull, and is light enough to be carried by someone who may or may not be as avidly invested in firearms as the rest of us. It would make an excellent gun for someone who has a little more experience and has a few more miles on their boots. Do I recommend it as a concealed carry, home defense, and duty sidearm? Yes, I do. So, what do I rate this gun overall as a carry gun? I'm going to have to give it 8 roll pins out of 10. I hope you enjoyed the review of my CZ P-01. Please click the subscribe button and press like. It really helps. Thank you for watching, and stay safe.